The case you're about to see is fictional, but the procedure is legally accurate. The characters are played by actors, but the jury is selected from members of the public.
I didn't know you'd gone over to the other side, Nigel.
What?
Supporting the ladies, that's what you call them.
How say you, Russell Steadman? Are you guilty or not guilty?
Not guilty.
Members of the jury, the case you're about to hear concerns more than a regrettable accident. Miss Hilary Rogers could so easily have been killed. In the early hours of Sunday, September 18th, 1983, Russell Steadman ran Miss Rogers down with his car. The couple had just left Steadman's company dinner, a dinner which ended for Miss Rogers in bruises and broken bones. The accused stands indicted with causing her grievous bodily harm with every intention of doing just that, of deliberately driving his car at a woman whose only crime was to reject his offers of marriage.
What I give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Are you Miss Hilary Rogers of 3 Rose Cottage, Slinbourne, near Fulchester?
I am.
And are you a schoolteacher at Slinbourne Junior School?
That's right.
What was your relationship to the accused on the night of September 17th?
He was my lodger. He had been for just over 2 years. We were friendly, well, on and off, until it became obvious he had to go.
Obvious?
He wanted us to be more than friends.
More than a lodger and a friend?
Yes.
What was that? Please speak up, Miss Rogers.
Yes, he wanted to be my lover.
Was he ever your lover?
No, never.
What happened when you refused his attentions?
The first time he seemed to understand. The second time we had a row. Then the rows became more frequent until he agreed to find new accommodation. But it never materialized.
Did Steadman explain why he failed to go?
He was too busy. He's just been promoted to a senior sales position at Aston Avionics. He was working abroad a lot. I didn't see him much. It was better. But when we did meet, he just wanted to talk about his problems. He got himself into a real rat race, poor little man.
Miss Rogers, the accused is well above the average height.
He's morally small, a small man in a large system. I felt sorry for him, that's all.
Miss Rogers, please, you're not allowed to give us your opinions, only the facts.
But it is a fact. Anyway, he always wanted to know my opinion.
Don't you think it better that we let the accused speak for himself at the proper time? I'm sure he's quite capable.
So if we could... what happened on the last occasion you discussed your relationship?
He'd just come back from a trip to South America. He wanted to know who I'd been seeing. Men. I mean, I could have asked him the same question. Who'd he been selling arms to? That's his line. Marvellous, isn't it?
The accused asked you if you've been seeing any men.
Well, I was perfectly free to see who I liked. It's my house. Then he said that I should settle down with him, being 33. Settle down. It always sounded like a compost heap to me. He reminded me that I was getting old, and that if I didn't watch out, I would find myself on the shelf, not being much to look at.
Did he offer any solution?
He asked me to marry him. Everything about us is different. I mean, as if I could, politically, ideologically. He'd just been selling nuclear guidance systems. I'm a member of CND. It's impossible. He was lucky he hadn't been thrown out on his ear ages ago.
Yet you did agree to go to his company dance?
Yes. Well, he'd often ask me to functions, either at work or the Freemasons, ladies' nights. I always refused. But at one of our meetings of the Women's Disarmament Group, we were discussing arms sales, and I realized how very little I knew about them, so I thought I'd use Russell's next shindig as field work.
What happened at the dinner dance?
I found out that he'd been telling everyone we were getting engaged.
And what did you tell everyone?
Well, that it was nonsense, of course.
If we could go on to events immediately prior to the incident, did you meet anyone you particularly remember?
Yes, Mark Bowles, the managing director's son. We had a few dances. He had some very interesting ideas on East-West strategy.
Did anything else happen?
Well, I had to arrange another day to see Mark, to carry on our discussion uninterrupted, because Russell kept butting in. were introducing me to more cronies. It got more and more obvious that he'd built up a web of lies about our relationship. I acted as the single woman I am. I talked to a man whose ideas I found attractive. And Mark seemed to like me too.
No. Were you trying to make Steadman jealous?
No. No, I'd only do that if I was trying to attract him. It was quite the reverse. But Russell insisted on being childish.
If we could move on.
He's always been so aggressive his whole life. The best salesman, the best lover, Russell Steadman, the Empire's answer to Exocet. He's very frightened of failing.
Please, Miss Rogers, facts. We're only interested in the facts.
Just like Mr. Gradgrind.
A character in Charles Dickens' Hard Times, my lord.
Yes, Mr. Steed, I do know. But shall we exercise ourselves in unravelling this particular tale and not worry too much about literature? Do get on.
So, what happened at the end of the evening?
Well, as I was collecting my coat, Russell accused me of going off with Mark. And he said, "I suppose you've been telling everyone I'm no good in bed." Well, he was pretty hysterical. I'd only told people we weren't getting engaged. Then he said that I needed looking after.
What did you do?
I'm afraid I laughed, because if anyone had been doing any looking after, it was me. Listening to his problems. For heaven's sake, I even did his laundry. Anyone would think I was more his mother than his landlady.
Did the accused say anything else?
Yes, he said, "If you're too stupid to see you need my help, you can go to hell."
He told you to go to hell. Those were his exact words.
Yes. Then he started to cry. I tried to stop him, but he went outside, so I followed. Mr. and Mrs. Bowles went out too. She buttonholed me again. Mrs. Bowles. We'd been discussing poetry earlier, Tennyson of all people. And for once, Russell didn't interrupt us, but he went to fetch the car.
And what did you do?
I strolled across the forecourt with Mrs. Bowles, looking at the stars. They were very bright. I stopped and looked up to try and see the Great Bear. Mrs. Bowles was chilly, I think, so she went back in.
Did anything else happen?
Oh, yes. It was while I was looking up that I heard the car. As it came screeching round the corner, I looked and saw that it was Russell's. He was driving straight at me, and the lights were off.
Its headlights off?
Yes, as it came round the corner, but then as it straightened up, sort of more parallel to the building, he flashed his lights on very briefly. Well, the lights dazzled me, and then they went off again.
What did you do then?
Well, I knew Russell must have seen me, so I stayed where I was, some 50 yards from the building.
How fast do you think the car was travelling?
Quite fast, 30-ish. It was a long building, so he had some distance to cover before he reached the main door.
Steadman was driving his car at about 30 miles an hour towards the main door.
No, he was driving it at me.
Or did he slow down, sound his horn, make any recognition he knew you were there?
No, he just kept coming.
So what did you do?
When I realised that he wasn't going to stop, I ran back towards the main door, but Russell changed directions. As I changed position, he steered towards me. He was still driving at me.
And where were you by the time the car almost reached you?
Some 40 yards from the main steps. Well, I waved my arms and I shouted. It wasn't as if it was a dark night, but he didn't stop. Then the car hit me, my left leg. My evening dress got caught in something, the bumper perhaps, and I was dragged along for some distance.
What were your injuries?
A complicated fracture of the femur, plus severe bruising and grazing. I still have pieces of gravel and cinder in my leg. The leg was worse than it could have been because of a recent ankle injury.
After you were injured, do you remember anything?
Yes. Russell standing over me. Well, he didn't bend down to help, he just stood there, saying, "All I asked you to do was to marry me. Was that so dreadful?" Then I'm afraid I passed out. So as usual, Russell had the last word.
Thank you, Miss Rogers. No further questions.
Miss Rogers. 'Tis Miss, not Ms.
Miss.
Yes. Now, Miss Rogers, you just told the court that Steadman's car came screeching round the corner.
That's right.
It was coming straight at you, its lights off.
Yes.
Then you told us, as it straightened up, sort of more parallel to the building, its lights flashed on very briefly and you were dazzled.
Yes.
So initially the car was coming straight at you, then it changed direction, caught you in its headlights.
Yes.
How?
don't understand.
Well, when the lights flashed on and dazzled you, had you moved from your original position?
No.
Well, perhaps you'd explain how the car could have been going in two separate directions and yet both times be aimed at you, if you didn't move.
I didn't move.
Oh, I put it to you, Miss Rogers, that you moved. When you ran back towards the building, you ran into the path of the oncoming vehicle.
No.
And because Russell Steadman had not seen you, he was neither trying to hit you or miss you.
I did run, but no, it wasn't like that. When Russell came round the corner, he didn't come round the corner. He came sort of straight out from the side car park in a wide arc, away from the building, across the forecourt. I was standing there looking up at the stars. When I looked down, the car was in mid-turn, coming straight towards me. Then it straightened out, parallel to the building, flashed its lights on and off, but it was still coming straight at me. Well, I didn't move until it was obvious Russell wasn't going to stop.
Miss Rogers, you stated to my learned friend that when the car lights flashed on, you knew Steadman must have seen you. How did you know?
Well, I was dead centre in the lights.
What colour was your dress and coat?
The dress was black, the coat greyish.
Black and grey. It was night time. You were dressed in dark colours, yet you still maintain that Steadman must have seen you in that split second of light.
The stars were shining. It was very bright. And Russell obviously changed directions when he saw me. Then he flashed his lights to make sure that he had me bang in his sights.
Oh, no, Miss Rogers, I would suggest you're far too fond of making up stories. This isn't evidence. This is an interpretation of what you think Steadman had in his mind. Now, if we could move back in time. Now, you told the court that Steadman was lucky he hadn't been thrown out on his ear.
That's right.
Miss Rogers, did you know there are perfectly adequate legal means of evicting unwanted lodgers?
Yes.
Oh, why didn't you use them?
It wouldn't have been very nice. Seemed a bit extreme.
Oh, you don't like being extreme.
No, not unnecessarily.
You're a feminist, member of an anti-nuclear organisation.
Oh, that's different.
And you can thoroughly disrupt Mr. Steadman's dinner dance, yet you refuse to take the normal legal action to evict your so-called lodger.
It just didn't seem right. And he had promised to go.
I put it to you, Miss Rogers, that it didn't seem right because you were, in fact, living together as lovers.
No.
Wasn't the term lodger used only to avoid embarrassment because you were an unmarried school teacher in a small village?
No, of course not. This is 1984.
But you were a very obliging landlady.
How do you mean?
Well, despite the level of rows you'd have as took place at Rose Cottage, you accepted his bad moods, his personal comments, jealousy, listened to his problems, even saw to his laundry.
Yes, I'm in a caring profession, Mr. Hurst. I'm a junior school teacher. Those are the sort of functions I carry out daily.
Oh, so you're telling us you were not Mr. Steadman's lover. You were merely treating him as you would one of your junior boys.
Yes, I am paid to care for little boys, just as I was paid to care for Russell.
But had not Mr. Steadman on several occasions asked to marry you? And had you not on several occasions accepted?
No, never. Marriage falls quite outside the job description.
Well, can you explain then why a perfectly attractive, eligible, successful young man should announce to his colleagues that he was engaged if he'd had no encouragement?
Mr. Hurst, what exactly is your line of argument here? You and I both know that provocation is only relevant in a murder trial, not grievous bodily harm.
Indeed so, my lord. I am merely trying to prove that Miss Rogers is a totally unreliable witness and that her testimony should not be believed.
Very well.
Look, if anyone should have been provoked, it was me, not him. Yes, living with him, I became more aware of violence. His. Well, if he can sell weapons, he's quite capable of driving a car at me.
Oh, come, Miss Rogers, this isn't a violent man.
6 months ago, he pushed me down the stairs. I was trying to get his things out of my house at the time when he pushed me. Well, ask Jeannie Franklin. She was there. She called the police.
This is no concern of the court.
No, the police weren't overly concerned either.
Look.
They said...
Yes, if we could leave this gossip, please, and get back to the case in hand.
They said that I was a big, strapping girl and quite capable of looking after myself, even though I'd broken my ankle.
My lord, this is most prejudicial to my case. My client is not being tried for some incident, the facts of which cannot be proved.
To be fair, Mr. Hurst, you did introduce the subject with a question of your own. I will, nevertheless, instruct the jury to put it out of their minds. You will please ignore the witness's last disclosure.
What did your friends think of Steadman?
They didn't approve.
Oh, so you wouldn't have been able to tell them that you were sleeping with the enemy.
This is ridiculous. I have never slept with Russell Steadman.
Then why did Mr. Steadman accuse you of telling everyone he was no good in bed?
Well, I can't be expected to account for his paranoia now, can I?
Throughout this examination, you felt free to comment on another man's thoughts. I mean, you told my learned friend that Steadman had to be the best lover, the best... Why do you say the best lover?
Well, I
mean, why would you say he was trying to be the best lover if you had no experience of his attention?
All right. What if I had slept with him? Of what possible interest can it be to anyone?
No interest at all, Miss Rogers, none at all. The court does not care how many men you sleep with, but it does care whether or not you are telling the truth. And throughout this testimony, you have repeatedly lied about your relationship with Russell Steadman. You have told the jury a lie. Is there any reason why they should not dismiss the rest of your evidence as a lie?
Cheer up, Mrs. Rogers. Might never happen.
My daughter, dragging us through the dirt. Why couldn't she get married like everyone else?
She only slept with the bloke.
You girls have no idea how to treat a decent young man when one comes along. He wanted to marry her. No, not our Hilary. It would be too easy. Simple. Instead, we have this. And all her daddy and I ever wanted was for her to be happy.
Miss Rogers, why didn't you tell us about your affair with Mr. Steadman?
Partly because it was nothing. Well, to me, it was nothing. I didn't realise it was going to get to be so important to him, but it did.
When did the affair take place?
Last Christmas. Well, holidays aren't very good for people on their own, and I couldn't face going to Mother's, so, well, it just happened.
And after the holiday?
It didn't work out. Yes, well, a man like Russell... Look, I'm not beautiful. He wouldn't call me beautiful, and I did find him attractive physically. The thought that we could live together in my little house, well, I liked the idea. But after a week or two, he got to be so possessive. And sexually, when it came to it, well, he wasn't... I was surprised. I thought he would have been more experienced. Anyway, by the end of the New Year holiday, reality dawned. It was as if we came from different planets.
What did you do then?
We talked. I didn't want to hurt him. He'd even asked me to marry him. Eventually, he said he would leave.
But he didn't?
No. But I did try to get him out of my house, and that's when he pushed me down the stairs.
Please, Miss Rogers, the law only allows us to deal with the offence in hand.
Look, sleeping with Russell, I'm trying to make a relationship work with him, shocked me. It shocked me. It shocked me that for all my strength outwardly, my independence, I could be so vulnerable, so frightened of a future on my own that I'd link myself with a man who I despise. I don't hate him, but I do despise his ideas, his whole way of living. I was too ashamed to say I'd slept with him. That's why I didn't tell you. I couldn't tell anyone.
Did you deliberately try to mislead this court?
Oh, no. No, not at all.
You are Mark Bowles of the Cedars, Fulchester Heights, son of Mr. Henry Sidgwick Bowles, Managing Director of Aston Avionics.
That's right.
What is your profession?
I'm a third-year history student at Sussex University. I hope to teach if there are any jobs.
And if there aren't, will you go into your father's business?
No chance. I object to the way he earns his money.
Yet you went to his company dance.
He told me to.
Tell us about the evening.
It was the usual boring farce, middle-aged couples waltzing around worrying about their careers, oblivious of the fact that the weapons they make could destroy the whole structure of the world. It felt more like a wake than a celebration.
Did you speak to anyone?
There were the usual introductions. Then I met Hilary Rogers. She was as out of place as I was.
Tell us what happened.
She was with Steadman. They were talking to Bartlett, the personnel director. I joined them for a drink.
Did the accused say anything to you?
When he realised who I was, he was all over me. Then he introduced Hilary, Miss Rogers, as his fiancée.
Was there any reaction to that information?
Bartlett grinned in his usual inane way, told Steadman it'd be nice to get his file straight at last.
It would be nice to get his file straight at last.
Yes, it puzzled Miss Rogers too, so she asked him what he meant. Apparently Bartlett reckoned there was space in Steadman's personal file for details about his wife, whether she'd fit in and all that.
Did either Miss Rogers or Steadman say anything?
Hilary turned. So Steadman... Hilary told Bartlett she wasn't engaged to Steadman, had no intention of ever being so, and then she walked away.
Did you...
I went and asked her for a dance.
And how long did you dance?
On and off throughout the first half of the evening, until Steadman got too much.
How do you mean?
Well, he kept bringing people to meet Hilary, still introducing her as his fiancée. It was ludicrous. The first couple of times she just laughed it off, but then she started to get angry, denied it. So I told Steadman to keep away.
Did he?
Not exactly. He hovered like a wounded vulture. Eventually it was Hilary who thought she ought to go and join him, as she'd come with a jealous idiot. That's what I thought of him. But she was remarkably understanding, considering.
During the evening, did you have any more dealings with the accused?
Not until it was nearly time to leave. We met in the gents.
Did he speak?
Oh, yes. He told me Hilary didn't need some immature academic layabout who knew bugger all about the real world. That's what he said. And that she was into proper men. I mean, it was pathetic. I thought he'd been reading some trashy novels or something.
Is that the last you saw of the accused?
No, I saw him in his car.
And where was that?
In front of the main entrance. The car was coming across the forecourt, and I could see Hilary quite a way away to my left. As I watched, the car changed directions, levelled up, and drove towards her. The headlights went on, spotlighting Hilary. I realised that he'd seen her and thought he was probably going to stop and pick her up. It was then that I turned round to light my cigarette. I only turned back when I heard Hilary yell, "Russell, don't."
And when you turned back, what did you see?
Well, the lunatic didn't even try to brake, and he'd switched the lights off. The car was almost on top of Hilary. She was running towards us, waving her arms, but she tripped on her long dress. And then the car swerved towards her and hit her. The speed didn't drop at all.
How fast do you estimate he was going?
At least 30. But if he tried, I'm sure he could have stopped.
Thank you, Mr. Bowles.
You've seen Miss Rogers since the incident?
Yes.
Often?
Bit.
Often enough to become totally familiar with her version of the relationship with Steadman?
Yes, I suppose so.
Often enough to become totally familiar with Miss Rogers?
Yes, actually, as it happens, but
I put it to you, Mr. Bowles, that your intimate friendship with Miss Rogers has unduly influenced your attitude to the events of that evening.
Well, that's ridiculous. I made a statement on the night it happened.
Yes, but even then you'd already decided to take Miss Rogers away from Mr. Steadman.
Take her away? What kind of language is that? This is past the age of the chastity belt. She didn't belong to him. She doesn't belong to me, for that matter. She was perfectly capable of making her own choice.
Now, you said that during the evening Miss Rogers was remarkably understanding, considering. Considering what?
Considering Steadman's behaviour.
Mr. Bowles, how old are you?
20, but I'll be 21 soon.
Do you have a lot of experience of relationships between men and women?
I've had a few girlfriends.
A few?
Well, 2, actually, and now Hilary.
Who at 33 is hardly a girl. Now, did you know that some relationships between men and women thrive on conflict?
I don't understand.
Is it possible that Miss Rogers was remarkably understanding because what you were witnessing between her and Mr. Steadman was part of their normal relationship?
No, from what Hilary said.
From what Hilary said? I put it to you, Mr. Bowles, that your whole testimony rests on what Hilary said about Steadman, both on that evening and subsequently.
No, all I know is that he drove his car at her.
Could what you have seen have been an accident?
Never.
Mr. Bowles, is it not the case that when you came to make your statement, you were already predisposed to find Steadman guilty?
No.
No further questions, thank you.
I suppose you're going to tell us next you got a kick out of being flattened by Macho Man's car.
Mr. Bowles. Mr. Bowles!
The case of the Queen and Steadman will be resumed tomorrow in the Crown Court. The case you're about to see is fictional. The procedure, however, is legally accurate. The characters are played by actors, but the jury is selected from members of the public. The The Crown contend that Russell Steadman drove his car at Miss Hilary Rogers with intent to do her grievous bodily harm. It's the contention of the defence that Miss Rogers sustained her injuries accidentally when she ran into the path of the car.
Sexy schoolmistress in after-school activities. Typical, they get it all wrong.
It's not how she was brought up. Is it asking too much to want to see her settled? But no. Now she's cradle snatching. Taken up with a 20-year-old. Her daddy's too ashamed to show his face. He had such high hopes of his Hilary. His Hilary, yes, well, she doesn't get it from me.
Look, just who is it's on trial here, Mrs. Rogers?
I would contend, my lord, that such misleading reporting can only suggest to the jury that Miss Rogers brought her injuries upon herself, that Steadman was provoked into running her down. Whilst it is true that the prosecution's case depends upon proving a motive of jealousy and unrequited love, it is nevertheless quite wrong of the newspapers to suggest that Miss Rogers was in any way to blame.
Mr. Hurst?
It's already been adequately pointed out by your lordship that provocation is not an issue in a case of grievous bodily harm. And if it is not an issue, I fail to see why my learned friend takes such exception to a few tabloid articles.
Mr. Steed?
My lord, the jury has been tainted with misinformation likely to cause it to look unduly favourably upon the accused. I would request that the jury be discharged.
I would agree, Mr. Steed, that as far as Miss Rogers personally is concerned, the tabloids have jumped to some unfortunate and hurtful conclusions. But the matter in hand is not finally whether Miss Rogers was Steadman's lover or whether she had other lovers. It is whether or not Steadman ran her over deliberately. This application is refused.
Yes, I accompanied my husband to the Aston Avionics executive dinner, as I have for the past 20 years.
Was there anything unusual about this year, Mrs. Bowles?
Yes, Miss Rogers was run over. That made a change. There have been years when I would gladly have done the same thing to Henry, if only to relieve the boredom.
Yes, Mrs. Bowles, if we could confine ourselves to what you saw.
One is allowed to dream, Mr. Steed.
But not in the court's time, Mrs. Bowles, thank you.
I was walking across the forecourt with Miss Rogers. She was such a breath of fresh air. Yes, that's what was different. We'd been talking about poetry, Tennyson, and we were looking at the stars. Then Henry called me back. He'd stayed sheltered in order to light his filthy cigar. I don't think he sees stars anymore. Anyway, he called. I turned back. Habit of a lifetime, I suppose. He shouts, I respond. I got back to the steps, and then I heard the car and turned round.
Where did you first see the car?
Well, it was coming in a sort of semicircle across the open space in front of the building. There was dust flying everywhere. It must have been doing 35. Then it half turned, crossed in front of the building, but a long way off, on the same line as Miss Rogers.
On the same line as Miss Rogers?
Yes, level with Hilary.
Then what happened?
Then the headlamps went on. You could see her in the light. Then almost immediately they went off.
Could you see Miss Rogers before the headlamps were switched on?
Oh, yes, the stars were very bright. She was standing there by herself. She looked very, very complete on her own. I envied her.
What happened then?
I realized Russell was showing off his toy. My husband had given him a new company car. He was headed straight for the girl and very fast.
Did the driver make any attempt to stop?
No, none.
What did Miss Rogers do?
That's what I don't understand. She didn't do anything. She just stood there like a frightened rabbit. It was only at the last minute that she suddenly shouted something and waved her arms. Then she turned and ran towards us at the front door. But the car changed direction. It drove the way she was running, and then it hit her, and she was dragged along the ground before the car stopped.
And what did Steadman do?
Well, he got out of the car and he went over to Hilary, but he didn't bend down. He didn't even bend down to comfort her. He just stood there looking down at her. I got there as fast as I could. I put my fur coat over the poor girl until the ambulance arrived.
And your husband, what did he do?
Oh, he wasn't capable of getting anywhere fast.
What was wrong with him?
He was drunk.
Thank you, Mrs. Bowles.
Mrs. Bowles, was Miss Rogers introduced to you as Steadman's fiancée?
Yes, but later she denied it. I turned him down in front of everyone. Good for her.
So you're on her side?
Mr. Hurst, I had a similar introduction to company life. If I had known then what I know now, the uselessness, the pretense, Miss Rogers was wise to get out when she could, before she needed the usual anesthetics.
Anesthetic, Mrs. Bowles?
A few gins.
Oh, so you'd been drinking at the dinner?
Like everyone else. I wasn't driving. And I had to keep up with my husband. A woman must keep up.
You told the court earlier that your husband was drunk. Does that mean that you were drunk too, Mrs. Bowles?
I didn't say I had caught him up, now did I?
Now, you said that you found Miss Rogers to be a breath of fresh air.
Yes.
Or was that because she expressed the same antagonism to the company and men that you yourself were feeling?
Well, yes. Yes, it was.
I would suggest, Mrs. Bowles, that you were favourably disposed towards Miss Rogers before the incident, and this has coloured your evidence.
Mr. Hurst, I do know what I saw.
Mrs. Bowles, do you drive?
No, we have a chauffeur.
Is it true that you suffered a childhood accident that has left you blind in one eye?
Yes.
Is that why you don't drive, because you have impaired vision?
No. And I don't wear spectacles. My long sight is better than my husband's, drunk or sober.
Is it true that the loss of sight in one eye entails a loss of three-dimensional vision?
Yes.
Is the effect of this in real terms a difficulty in distinguishing relative distances, in assessing whether one object is nearer or farther away than the other?
Yes, but like everything else in life, one learns to compensate.
You told this court that the accused was driving a long way out, but on the same line as Miss Rogers.
Yes.
But, Mrs. Bowles, it was night time. You were watching a girl in a dark black dress and a grey coat and a fast-moving car. There was none of the usual paraphernalia of street life against which to judge distances. Only a flat expanse of cinder-coloured space.
I know that. He drove at her. She tried to move out of the way.
But, Mrs. Bowles, with your impaired vision, it was impossible for you to judge whether she moved into Mr. Steadman's line or out of it.
You are determined not to believe a word I am saying.
And I'm sure, Mrs. Bowles, that however much you believe your account of what you saw that night, you're not equipped to give the court reliable information.
Not equipped? I have managed perfectly well for years. Mr. Hurst, if you would care to polish your own spectacles, you would be able to see what a ruthless young man Steadman is. Not as cultivated as my Henry, but along the same lines. And even I can see that.
I arrived alone. We were short-handed. It was 1:16 on Sunday, the 18th of September. And Miss Rogers had not been moved and lay on the ground some 25 yards from the main canteen entrance. She was unconscious and covered with a fur coat.
Can you tell us what the other people at the scene were doing?
A lady was somewhat hysterical. I later ascertained that it was Mrs. Bowles. Her husband was doing his best to subdue her.
Did the accused speak to you?
He said he'd been indoors and had been sick. I asked him what had happened, but before he could answer, Mr. Bowles said he'd seen it all, and it was an accident. Mrs. Bowles shouted it was deliberate. I decided it would be best to caution the accused, who said, "I'm saying nothing until I see my lawyer. Don't worry, officer, that won't be long. He's on his way. I just called him."
You mean that while Steadman was inside the building, he had called his lawyer?
Yes, that's what he said.
So by the time you cautioned him, his lawyer was already on the way?
Apparently.
What happened once the ambulance arrived?
Mr. Mark Bowles was anxious to go with Miss Rogers. I thought he was a boyfriend, so I agreed. Then I checked the ground. There was a longish skid mark, ending at the spot where Miss Rogers lay.
Did you measure it?
No, sir. Forensic would do that in the morning. I did do a quick check of the car, tyres, etc. Without moving it, you understand. Everything seemed in good working order.
Did you check the lights?
Yes, they were working too.
What happened then?
The premises were locked and instructions left with the night watchman that nothing was to be moved.
Did you post a policeman on guard?
Unfortunately not, sir. The next morning I returned to the scene with forensic to get details of the skid. We might have been able to ascertain the speed of the car when it hit her.
Did you get those details?
Unfortunately not. The night watchman had gone off shift and someone had moved the car. We've been unable to trace the culprit, and a lot of cars had driven over the spot before we reached it.
Thank you, Constable.
Constable, you just told the court that Steadman called a lawyer.
Yes.
Is that not his right?
Yes.
Had the ambulance been called?
Yes, some 10 minutes earlier.
And who had called it?
Mr. Steadman, I believe.
Before he called a lawyer?
Yes, it would seem so, but he seemed too calm.
Too calm?
Yes, considering he'd just knocked the girl over.
But you've just told the court that Mr. Steadman had been sick.
Well, that's what he said. I didn't see him.
Was Mr. Steadman breathalyzed?
Yes.
And the result?
We barely got a reading. Obviously, he'd hardly touched a drop.
Well, could the fact that he was sober have accounted for his calm behaviour?
Yes, it could have.
When the car was test-driven, did you find any defects?
No, none at all. It was almost brand new.
Did you examine the windscreen?
Yes, it wasn't very clean.
Ah, could you elaborate?
The accused had been parked under some lime trees that were shedding their leaves. The windscreen was somewhat sticky.
At night, would the accused have had difficulty seeing through the windscreen?
Well, it's surprising how many people do manage to drive with dirty windscreens.
But could the sticky substance on the windscreen have impaired Mr. Steadman's vision?
Perhaps.
Could it have contributed to an accident?
In the right circumstances.
And could those circumstances have been found on a September night on an unlit forecourt where a woman in a black dress and a grey coat was standing where the defendant did not expect to see her?
Yes, possibly.
Of course it was an accident. How could it be anything else? Not content with showing her parents up, she's putting poor Russell through all this. He was always very nice to me.
Are you Miss Jean Franklin?
Yes.
Miss Franklin, where do you live?
Number 5 Rose Cottages, next door to Hilary and him.
Would you tell the court what happened on September 15th, 3 days before Miss Rogers was run over?
I dropped into number 3 about some posters Hilary had been promising to circulate. But when I walked in the kitchen, Russell was sat at the table.
Did he say anything to you?
He asked me why I hadn't knocked, and I told him I never did. So he said, well, you better start. Things are changing round here.
Did you understand what he meant?
Not exactly. Anyway, I made a cup of tea and sat down to wait for Hilary. There was a lot of bonking and banging going on upstairs. She was obviously busy. Old Russell had only started to unroll my posters. He reckoned that for women, nuclear protests have replaced housework. But if it kept us off the streets, he supposed it didn't do any harm. I laughed, because obviously we'd been on the streets with a vengeance. He didn't like me laughing.
Miss Franklin, what is the point you're trying to make?
Well, the point is, your lordship, he couldn't see there was anything wrong in nuclear weapons, just so long as he had one of the key jobs in the business, provided he had a career.
Miss Franklin, please, I assume you are here for some other purpose than to give us a lecture on nuclear disarmament.
It wouldn't go amiss.
I don't imagine you ladies hold a monopoly on protest. There is, I believe, an organisation called Lawyers for Nuclear Disarmament. Now, shall we get on with the point in hand?
Well, the point is, Hilary came down from upstairs, told Russell his things were packed and he could leave right away.
What was his response?
Well, he said he could leave, but he wouldn't. And she might as well unpack his shirts now to save her having to iron them again. Then he spilt tea on my posters. He said that was an accident too.
Then what happened?
I'm afraid I couldn't help myself, friend or no friend. I said, you don't iron the bleeping bleepers' shirts, do you? And that's when Russell shouted at Hilary to keep her bloody harpies out of the house. I think he must have meant me and the girls.
Did she reply?
She said if anyone was going, it was him. But he just smiled. Smiled for a long time and then said, over your dead body. Over your dead body, sweetheart.
Over your dead body. Those were his exact words.
Yeah, he meant it. The smile wiped from his face as he said it, calm as anything. And of course, 3 days later, he'd run her down.
Miss Franklin, you just told the court that Steadman had asked you to start knocking at the door before entering because things were changing.
That's right, throwing his weight about.
Well, could he have meant that he and Miss Rogers were going to formalise their relationship, get engaged, and you'd no longer be welcome in their house?
She wouldn't do that.
But could it have meant that?
How? He'd already shoved her down the stairs once.
Miss Franklin, that information is totally outside the scope of this trial. The jury will ignore that last remark.
But it's not the sort of information you ignore when deciding whether or not to marry a bloke, is it? Anyway, Hilary was upstairs packing his things.
But in the 3 days between her telling him to go and the company dance, Russell Steadman did not move out. Do you know why not?
I suppose he got heavy and she caved in, as usual.
Or Miss Rogers never really wanted him to leave. Miss Franklin, when the accused said he would only leave over Miss Rogers' dead body, could it have been a joke?
Some joke.
Well, he did also call her sweetheart.
Yeah, but who'd want to be called sweetheart by him?
Now, I put it to you, Miss Franklin, that what you were witnessing was part of an elaborate game played privately between Miss Rogers and the defendant, a game to which you were not privy.
Then she'd have been safer playing solitaire. I told her she should get him out of her house.
I would suggest, Miss Franklin, that your evidence today, if that's what you call it, is biased by your dislike both of the defendant and his profession. Well, do you or do you not disapprove of Mr. Steadman?
That's obvious. But for that matter, I disapprove of you and Mr. Steed. I don't see why Hilary didn't have a woman barrister.
Miss Franklin, the witness didn't choose her barrister. Mr. Steed was allocated.
Then who chose you? Be nice to see a woman instead of you.
I agree. I can think of far more comfortable places to be than here trying to keep you to the point. I do get on, Mr. Hurst.
My lord. Miss Franklin, did you see Mr. Steadman's car run into Miss Rogers?
Of course not. I wasn't there.
Then I think you can be of no further help. Thank you, Miss Franklin.
You may stand down, Miss Franklin.
You mean no one in this mealy-mouthed court is going to say anything about him pushing her down the stairs?
Miss Franklin, I've already explained.
He pushed her. She broke her ankle. With a car, he broke her leg. Now, one accident I could take, but not two. Not two.
Miss Franklin, you will please leave the box.
Not much point staying. Rotten male-dominated system.
There are the rules, Miss Franklin.
Yeah, who made the rules? Men!
Silence in court.
That closes the case for the prosecution, my lord.
You are Mr. Russell Steadman of 53 Rowlands Avenue, Fulchester, a senior sales manager at Aston Avionics.
Correct.
What was your relationship with Miss Rogers?
Well, initially I was her lodger. Hilary and I really got together last Christmas. That was the turning point. Before that I'd stayed there, but we'd never...
At Christmas you became lovers?
Yes. And things escalated very quickly. I suppose that's the way love can go. But I wasn't altogether happy with the arrangement, living together without being married. I don't hold with that sort of thing. So we got engaged. That was last March, just before I went away on business.
What happened when you came back?
Well, she'd broken it off. She said she was scared. She wasn't ready. I did find out from her mother she'd been holding meetings at the house, feminists. I think she'd been influenced.
Yes, please don't tell us what you think. Just tell us what happened.
Well, of course, once I was home, she changed her mind. The engagement was on again.
Was the engagement subsequently broken off?
Yes, several times.
Moving on to the night of the dinner dance, did you invite Miss Rogers?
Well, no, but she insisted on coming. She'd even bought a new dress. Well, she tended to prefer those shapeless dungaree efforts. Her dress seemed a step in the right direction, so I agreed to let her come.
Well, why didn't you invite her in the first place?
Well, we'd only just got over our last row.
And what was the row about?
Do I have to answer that?
Yes, Mr. Steadman, I'm afraid you do.
Well, I found out she'd been seeing another man while I was away. It may have been more than one.
What was that?
It may have been more than one. Men. Men she was seeing.
Ah.
And what did you do when you found out?
Well, I didn't fly off the handle. We talked about it rationally. I was sure that if I was patient, she'd change. After all, we were back together again.
So this row was the background to the night at the dinner dance?
Right.
Can you tell us how the evening progressed?
Well, the trouble began with the first group of guests we met. They congratulated Hilary and I on our engagement. But she bridled, denied it, and went on about men treating women as possessions. Oh. So I took her away to dance. Well, from then on, I had to chaperone her. Well, to save her from herself, you understand. She can be very silly at times.
Mr. Steadman, that really is not for you to say.
Yes, but even her mother thought she was stupid to turn me down.
That's as may be, Mr. Steadman, but it's not part of this case. Now, do go on, Mr. Hurst.
My lord, did you stay with Miss Rogers all evening?
Well, I would have done if it hadn't been for him forcing Mark Bowl. He did his best at that.
How?
Well, Bartlett and I were discussing how many of the younger managers were married. Very much in the minority, being 35 and not married. Well, frankly, Bartlett went on a bit too long and frightened Hilary. She thought she couldn't live up to being an executive wife. So I gave her a cuddle to reassure her. Well, by then, Mark had joined us and put in his sixpenneth, said marrying a man in the weapons business gave a whole new meaning to the nuclear family, something crass like that. Well, what could I do? Punch him on the chin, the boss's son? Anyway, that set Hilary off again. She even told Bartlett we weren't engaged. She was completely overawed.
Later that evening, did you quarrel with Miss Rogers just before you went out to collect your car?
No. I only told her to fetch her coat and wait for me outside.
Did you at any time accuse her of telling everybody you were no good in bed?
No, of course not. Anyway, it wouldn't have been true.
Did you at any time tell Miss Rogers to go to hell and then you yourself burst into tears?
Tears? At the annual executive dinner? No way.
Thank you.
Look, there wasn't a man there who wasn't competition. I ask you, would it be any time to start blubbing?
If we could move on. Now, you went to fetch your car.
Yes.
Were you upset by anything?
Well, I was a little sad Hilary hadn't done better. A bit weary, you know, realizing how much more time, energy and money it would take. But I didn't give up. I'm not the sort to give up.
Tell us what happened when you collected your car.
It was in the side car park, the management car park. Some visitors had pinched my space, so my new Audi was parked under the wretched lime trees. Well, they should have been chopped down. This sticky mess from the leaves gets all over the windows. It's a parking space reserved for junior odds and sods.
And when you reached your car?
Well, this sticky guns was all across the windscreen. I tried wiping it with the wipers, but it only made it worse. But the side car park is floodlit, and it didn't seem to block my vision too much. So I drove off and turned the corner of the building.
What sort of speed were you doing?
20, not more than 20.
And at what point did you put your lights on?
Well, I should have put them on when I got in the car. But the side car park was so light, I forgot to put the headlights on. Well, then when I turned the corner of the building, I couldn't see a thing. There are no decent lights there, other than those at the main door, and I had this muck all over the windscreen. Well, I fumbled for the switch, but not being familiar with the new dash, I couldn't find it. Then my hand caught the dip switch for a couple of seconds and flashed them on and off.
And did you see anything in that couple of seconds?
Well, I wasn't sure. Something seemed to move, so I swerved left to avoid it.
You altered course immediately?
Oh, yes, just in case. Which took me towards the front of the building. Well, then suddenly I saw a woman to my right. She was running towards me. I swerved left again, but she ran into my path. I hit her. Well, all right, I should have had the headlights on or done something about the windscreen, but I was going to sort it out when I stopped at the door. But look, I didn't expect the silly I didn't expect Hilary to be hanging around in the dark now, did I?
What did you do when you hit her?
Jammed on the brakes. I'd dragged her along a bit. She looked dreadful lying there. I'm afraid I messed it up. I froze. I couldn't do anything. It was Mrs. Bowles who saw to Hilary. She put a coat over her. She was shouting at me. Then Henry, Mr. Bowles, started shouting at her. I suppose the noise got me going. I ran to ring an ambulance.
Thank you, Mr. Steadman.
Well, I was careless. It was careless driving. But I wouldn't... Not on purpose. She's a nice girl. She had potential. Even now, after being dragged through this court, I'd still forgive her. Really, I would.
The case of the Queen and Steadman will be concluded tomorrow in the Crown Court. The case you're about to see is fictional. The procedure, however, is legally accurate. The characters are played by actors, but the jury is selected from members of the public. The Crown contend that Russell Steadman drove his car at Miss Hilary Rogers with intent to do her grievous bodily harm. The defence maintain that Miss Rogers sustained her injuries accidentally when she ran into the path of the car.
Even now he'd have her back. Not many men would do that. And think what it's done to his career.
Well, not to mention what it's done to Hilary's leg.
Well, aren't you worried she might never get rid of her limp?
Of course, her daddy and I never have understood how she turned out to be such a large girl. Me being so petite. And now with a limp. And Russell's such a good-looking young man, isn't he? Some girls are never satisfied.
You told the court earlier that you thought it would take more time, energy and money to transform Miss Rogers into a suitable wife.
That's right. But I was willing to try.
Is that how you usually conduct your courtships?
I don't understand.
Well, I'm asking you if you usually spend time, energy and money on women.
Well, not unless it's worth it, no.
Not unless it's worth it. I see. So when Miss Rogers decided not to marry you, did it anger you to see a potential investment going down the drain?
Look, Mr. Steed, it was just nerves. I know Hilary. She denied the engagement because she's shy. She has an inferiority complex.
So how did comments about her age, her looks, help lessen her inferiority complex?
Well, it never used to be like that. She never used to criticize before she fell in with them. I could talk without getting kicked in the teeth. Look, no one likes to be disapproved of.
We're talking about your opinion of Miss Rogers, not her criticism of you.
Yes, well, I didn't start until she kept on at me. And anyway, it's true, women don't age as well as men. She should have married me. I only wanted things to be the way they were before.
You mean when Miss Rogers didn't criticize?
Yes. Well, there's nothing wrong with me. I'm a pretty average sort of person. In fact, I've done rather well.
Do you regard yourself as a good-looking man, Mr. Steadman?
Yes. Yes, I get by.
Ambitious, presentable, reliable?
What is this?
Why did you continue to bother with a woman who became feminist, anti-nuclear, and frankly critical?
Well, I kept hoping she'd get back to normal. She knew how hard I worked. I didn't need all this stupid hassle. I just wanted to get married and have done with it. I needed her to be there, that's all.
And what did she need?
God knows.
Let's return to events earlier that night. Mark Bowles and Miss Rogers were dancing together. You told my learned friend that you were not jealous.
She was being polite.
Oh, come, Mr. Steadman. You've just told us that Mark Bowles was trying to take her from you.
Well, he was trying, but I didn't regard him as a serious threat.
If you didn't feel threatened, why did you repeatedly interrupt their dancing?
Because I had to introduce Hilary to everyone.
What, even though she was saying at every turn that she was not engaged to you?
Yes.
I put it to you, Mr. Steadman, that the sole motive for interrupting Miss Rogers' dancing was because you were jealous of the attention she was paying Mark Bowles.
And what if I was? Isn't it allowed anymore? I suppose it's thought too old-fashioned if a man feels protective towards his girl.
You told this court that you hesitated to invite Miss Rogers to the dinner dance because you were just getting over your last row. Was it a major row?
Yes, all out.
But you also told this court that you didn't fly off the handle. You talked about things rationally, and you were sure if you were patient, she'd change.
Yes. Yes, I did say that.
Are you really telling us, Mr. Steadman, that that is a description of an all-out row?
It was afterwards. It came afterwards.
What, the rational, patient talk came after the all-out row?
Yes.
I would suggest, Mr. Steadman, that there never was any such patient talk. I would suggest that you have been at great pains to present yourself to this court as an understanding man, whereas in reality you were often angry and violent.
I'm not violent.
Did Miss Rogers repeatedly ask you to leave her house?
Yes, but she always changed her mind.
Did she not act in a very civilized manner towards you, asking you to leave, not resorting to law, but you would not quit her house?
If she wanted me to leave, she could have thrown my belongings out into the street. I was away often enough.
So you're telling this court that you would only accept her rejection of you if she threw your belongings violently from her house, returned violence with violence?
No, she slept with me.
And then, as was her right, she decided she no longer wished to.
Well, I knew she'd change. She'd have to.
Had to? Why? Because whether she liked it or not, you would make her change?
You make it all sound so...
The night of the dinner dance must have been a great disappointment to you.
Yes, of course.
You told your boss and all your colleagues that you were engaged, but Miss Rogers persisted in denying the engagement.
Yes. She sabotaged all my plans.
But at the end of the evening, you say you did nothing more than to ask Hilary to get her coat.
That's right.
You mean that after several hours of public humiliation and disappointment, you merely asked her to get her coat?
Yes. All I was trying to do was to help her.
But she persisted in being ungrateful, so you said to her, if you're too stupid to see you need my help, you can go to hell.
Well, I might have said something like...
Go to hell?
Yes. Yes, all right. But I didn't cry. I certainly did not cry.
So having told Miss Rogers to go to hell, you went to fetch your car.
That's right.
And what did Miss Rogers do?
Well, I left her wandering about on the forecourt with Mrs. Bowles. It worried me what she might be saying to her while I was away. I wondered if I should go back. But then Mrs. Bowles went towards the door and left Hilary on her own. So I hurried to get my car.
Why did you hurry?
Well, I wanted to get back to Hilary before she joined the others again.
What speed were you doing when you drove round the corner from the car park?
Not more than 20.
You sure? Well, you've just told us that you were in a hurry.
Look, I'm not trying to hide anything. It may have been a bit more.
Mr. Steadman, I put it to you that because you were in a hurry, you took the corner from the car park too fast.
Even if I did, it was still an accident.
And it was then that you spotted Miss Rogers.
No, I never saw her. It was impossible to see for all the muck on the windscreen.
But you told my learned friend that you did see something. You said something seemed to move.
I wasn't sure.
Why didn't you stop then?
It wasn't far to the door.
But if something seemed to move, why didn't you stop immediately?
I didn't think it necessary.
I put it to you, Mr. Steadman, that you didn't stop because you knew Miss Rogers was there and you intended to hit her.
It was impossible to see for all the muck on the windscreen.
Why did Aston Avionics give you a new car?
I'd been promoted to management proper from junior sales.
Junior sales? Would they be the junior odds and sods who usually park under the lime trees?
Yes.
So as a recent junior yourself, you must have had great experience of parking under the lime trees.
Yes.
Then there must have been many summer evenings when you drove out of the car park with a somewhat smudgy windscreen.
Yes, but I usually put my lights on. Look, I've admitted not putting them on. For heaven's sake, it's a new car. Doesn't it take everyone time to get used to all the knobs?
You found the windscreen wipers exactly where you wanted them. You found the wipers, but not the lights.
A fluke, that's all.
But to find the wipers, you must have had to run your hand over a button or two. Are you telling us that in that process you did not find the light switch?
Yes, it was luck. I found the wipers first time.
Luck? You told my learned friend that you didn't expect Hilary to be hanging about in the dark.
That's right.
But you just told us that you saw Miss Rogers on the forecourt before you went for your car.
Well, I didn't think she'd still be there.
But you hurried to your car after seeing her. Surely that didn't give her time to move.
I didn't expect her to still be there.
What had you expected? For her to sprint back to the door in a long evening dress? Now, Mr. Steadman, I would suggest that on reaching the corner of the building, you looked back and saw Miss Rogers standing alone, and you hurried to your car in order to take advantage of the situation, in order to run her down.
Rubbish.
And you invented the dirty windscreen to make it seem like an accident.
I suppose you're like me. You work on commission. The more convictions you get, the more you earn.
Mr. Steadman, Mr. Steed is paid to get at the truth.
I put it to you that you drove at speed out of the car park with your lights off because you wanted to run Miss Rogers over. You wanted to run her over because she had humiliated and rejected you.
All right, believe it, if you think it's the truth. Look, do you reckon I have difficulty with the ladies? Me? Yes, she blew hot and cold, but it was all part of the game. I was supposed to chase. Oh, yes, she liked me coming after her. She liked that.
If we could move on. After your car hit Miss Rogers, what did you do?
I went to her, but I couldn't bend down. I was too shaken.
Did you speak?
No.
You mean it is safer to tell this court that you said nothing rather than admit what you did say?
That's not true.
Did you not say to Hilary, while she lay injured and shocked on the ground, all I asked you to do was to marry me? Was that so dreadful?
No, of course not.
You would run her over as a punishment for turning you down.
She ran under my wheels.
But if you had accidentally run Miss Rogers over, why did you immediately call your lawyer?
Well, I would have had to have called one sooner or later.
How did you know it wouldn't just be reported as an accident?
I suppose I'm cautious by nature.
No, Mr. Steadman. You had heard what Mrs. Bowles was shouting at you. She was shouting that you had deliberately tried to kill Hilary.
Hilary? Half the time she didn't know whether she was dead or alive. She said she couldn't be fully alive without finding herself as a woman, being independent. But she wanted me. And when she had me, there was nothing ideological about it. That's when she lived. Then the next day she'd say I was killing her, bleeding her, trying to tie her down. She wanted everything. Too much. And what's a man supposed to do? Talk? Keep talking it over? God, we talked so much, words didn't mean anything anymore.
So you stopped talking and you took some action. You tried to kill her.
What? Throw everything away for her? I'm not that stupid.
No further questions, thank you.
And her singing, Jesus wants me for a sunbeam. Sweet as anything. She was such a good little girl. Who'll want her for a sunbeam now?
Look, just because she didn't want to marry him, it doesn't mean that she should be punished.
When I was a girl, we knew how to live.
Yeah, well, maybe things are harder nowadays, for men and women. Making up the rules as we go along. New rules.
Are you Henry Sidgwick Bowles of the Cedars, Fulchester Heights?
Indeed so.
And what is your profession?
I'm managing director of Aston Avionics. I'm a scientist. I set up the business about 21 years ago.
Now, will you tell the court about this year's executive dinner?
Yes, Steadman had assured me he was bringing his young lady, which I was pleased to hear.
And did you meet her?
Yes, naturally. Margaret and I always make a point of greeting our guests at the door. We like to put everyone at their ease.
And how was Miss Rogers introduced to you?
As Steadman's fiancée.
And did Miss Rogers react in any way at being introduced as Steadman's fiancée?
Yes, she smiled. She was pleasant enough.
Do you have any further dealings with the couple during the evening?
Yes, Margaret and I invited them to our table after dinner for brandy. I was interested to meet Miss Rogers, as Steadman had told everyone so much about her.
Was there any specific topic of conversation?
Unfortunately, yes. My son Mark, his education, or rather his lack of any visible progress in it. Nothing to do with Steadman, you understand. Steadman is solid. He's not an academic. Just an ordinary school, but business-minded. Bright.
Did Miss Rogers join in the conversation?
Yes, she was talking to my wife about poetry. And then when I asked her what she thought university would be like by the time my 12-year-old got there, she became angry. She said she thought that if the nuclear weapons industry continued to expand, we'd all be blown to smithereens by then. I thought that was rather uncalled for, particularly as she'd just been talking about poetry most intelligently with my wife.
Did you see the couple again during the evening?
Yes, but not until it was time to leave. They were in the foyer talking. Russell didn't look too happy. She seemed to be trying to argue.
Was Mr. Steadman hysterical, crying?
Well, absolutely not, no. I thought he seemed to be coping most tolerantly. And then he left to get his car.
And what did you do?
I waited for my own to be brought round. Margaret was out across the forecourt, talking with Miss Rogers, obviously undeterred. I called for her to come back into the warm, which she did, leaving Miss Rogers out there in the dark. And that's when Steadman's Audi came round the corner.
And what speed do you estimate the car was doing?
20, if that. He came round the corner, travelled in a direction 45 degrees diagonally away from the building, and then straightened up.
You notice anything about the car?
He didn't have his lights on, which, of course, legally he wasn't obliged to do until he was out on the road.
What happened then?
Steadman flashed his lights briefly and then carried on. Now, after a moment, Miss Rogers took it into her head to move. If she'd stayed where she was, she'd have been all right. But she ran into his path. He swerved, but she kept on running. Steadman couldn't avoid her.
Thank you, Mr. Bowles. Oh, Mr. Bowles, your wife, had she been drinking?
Well, my lord, he does seem disloyal.
Sorry if it upsets you, Mr. Bowles, but please try to answer the question.
Well, yes, I'm afraid Margaret has got a bit of a problem. She can hold herself together in public, don't misunderstand me, but, yes, she drinks. She'd had quite a bit.
Thank you. Were you drunk that evening, Mr. Bowles?
Certainly not.
But you'd just been to a dinner dance and you had a chauffeur to take you home.
Yes, for me, this was not a social function. A captain, you know, must always be in charge of his ship.
As you left the dinner dance, you say you saw the couples talking.
Yes, but I couldn't hear what they were saying.
Did it seem to be more than just Steadman asking Miss Rogers to fetch her coat?
Oh, yes. But if anybody had been rejected, it appeared to me to have been her. She put out a hand to stop him leaving, and he moved away. Just made me wonder.
Wonder what?
Well, look, I'm not unaware of the pressures which executive life puts on a young man. Ideally, a wife should be a man's greatest ally. Friend, even.
Is it company policy for managers to be married?
Generally, yes. But I'm quite sure Steadman would have found the right wife eventually.
So by the end of a rather disastrous evening, could Mr. Steadman have been feeling somewhat pressured by his lack of public success with Miss Rogers?
No, I'm sorry, I don't understand.
The company required that he be married, and Miss Rogers had been publicly denying their engagement. Could that have put him under some pressure?
Oh, yes, possibly. Possibly.
If we could move on. You told us that the car was doing 20, if that.
Correct.
And that the car travelled in a direction 45 degrees diagonally away from the building for a couple of dozen yards before straightening up.
Yes.
That's quite a detailed description.
Well, I'm a scientist. Details matter.
Is it correct that you made two statements to the police, one on the night of the incident and another 4 days later.
Yes.
Which statement contained the details we've just heard?
Well, obviously, they both dealt with the same incident.
Come, Mr. Bowles. Let us be more precise and scientific in the matter.
The second was the more detailed.
Yes, would that account for the fact that the speed of Steadman's car got slower between the first and second statement?
I didn't specify in my first statement what speed he was travelling.
Only that he was going pretty fast.
Yes.
Yet in your second statement, you say he was only doing 20, if that.
That I consider to be fast in a car park.
Mr. Bowles, are you sure you were not drunk when you made your first statement?
I have already assured you I was not.
Yet you were, for some reason, incapable of giving the police a detailed account of the events.
Yes, just with time to think, I recalled more, that's all.
Are you seriously telling us, Mr. Bowles, that you, a scientific man, remembered more 4 days after the event than 1 hour later?
Oh, yes.
Did you discuss the incident with your wife?
Yes.
Did your discussion lead to a series of bitter rows?
Well, Margaret had worked herself up unnecessarily, insisting Steadman had done it deliberately.
So she was not your friend and ally in the matter?
How could she have seen what happened when she was drunk?
Yet your wife gave the police a detailed statement at the time of the incident, something you failed to do.
I honestly didn't believe that anyone could believe Margaret. I thought my own statement was just a formality.
But when you realized your wife was going to be believed and Steadman charged, you decided to alter your statement to make it look more like an accident.
No.
I put it to you, Mr. Bowles, that this matter has become a personal battle between you and your wife, a battle that has little to do with the true facts.
Nonsense. Besides, I believe it is not unusual for a witness to make a second statement.
Correct. But in that event, it is difficult for the jury to determine which statement to believe, if either. Let us return to some different evidence. After the incident, did the police leave instructions with the night watchman for the car not to be moved?
I believe so, yes.
And yet it was moved.
Regrettably, yes.
Did you return to the factory early on Sunday morning, the day after the dance?
Yes, I had some important work to finish.
Had you already been arguing with your wife?
As it so happens, yes.
So, having finished your first statement, returned home, had a row, journeyed back to the factory, that didn't give you much time to sleep.
Unfortunately, in my business, sleep is at a premium.
Mr. Bowles, did you move Steadman's car in order to destroy evidence that might corroborate your wife's story? My lord, if my learned friend is making allegations, then he must provide evidence.
Quite so. Do you have relevant evidence, Mr. Steed?
No, my lord. The police failed to find anyone who moved the car, but it is nevertheless most peculiar that an important piece of police evidence was destroyed during the 2 hours Mr. Bowles was on the premises. And members of the jury, consider the accused repeatedly refused to leave Miss Rogers' house. He said he would go only over her dead body. 3 days later, Miss Rogers was severely injured. At the dinner dance, Miss Rogers repeatedly denied any engagement to Steadman, and before leaving, the couple had an argument in which the accused told her to go to hell. A few minutes later, Miss Rogers was severely injured. Now, bearing these facts in mind, ladies and gentlemen, you must ask yourselves whether Miss Rogers wanted to marry this man who she has said she despised. And what of the fateful car journey? The accused said his windscreen was dirty and he couldn't see. But yet it was no dirtier than it had been on many occasions. The accused told us he could not find the switch to his headlamps, yet he conveniently found the windscreen wipers. Ask yourselves if you can believe this intelligent man's ineptitude behind the wheel of a car. And also consider that the defense stressed the accused did not expect Miss Rogers to be hanging about on the forecourt. Yet Steadman himself said he saw her standing alone before he hurried off to fetch his car. The facts add up to something more than an accident. And surely, ladies and gentlemen, it is because Steadman knew it was no accident that even before the police cautioned him, he had telephoned his lawyer. He had telephoned his lawyer whilst Miss Rogers still lay injured upon the ground.
But the prosecution's case rests solely on the testimony of Miss Rogers, and she has been seen in this court to be a liar. And I urge you to ponder whether you can be impressed by the prosecution's witnesses. Mrs. Bowles, who has defective vision and drinks. What use is her testimony? Mark Bowles, now Miss Rogers' latest lover. We all know where his sympathies lie. and Jean Franklin, who has openly admitted her ideological dislike of the defendant. That leaves the police constable, who admitted under oath that the stickiness on the windscreen could, in the right conditions, have contributed to an accident. An accident, ladies and gentlemen. And what were these conditions? It is night, and a woman in black stands on a dark cinder forecourt. Members of the jury, you have seen Steadman for yourselves, a hard-working, law-abiding man. He was even willing to forgive Miss Rogers her affairs with other men. He is, in short, a civilized man, patiently doing his best for the woman he loved.
And now, finally, ladies and gentlemen, the prosecution has brought the charge and have to prove it to you before you can convict. Therefore, it is for you to determine, on the evidence you have heard, whether Russell Steadman deliberately drove his car at Miss Rogers with the intention of causing her serious bodily injury. I urge you to weigh the facts most carefully. I will retire, elect a foreman to speak for you, and consider your verdict.
Members of the jury, will your foreman please stand? Please answer my next question, yes or no. Have you reached a verdict on which you're all agreed?
Yes.
Do you find Russell Steadman guilty or not guilty of causing grievous bodily harm with intent?
Not guilty.
And that is the verdict of you all?
Yes.
May my client be released, my lord?
Yes, Mr. Harrison. He's free to go.
You can join another jury when our cameras return to bring you a further case in the Crown Court.